A woman was thrown out of her house for being old and went to live in a cave without imagining what she would find. Rosaura knew that the time to stay alone would come one day, but she was not prepared to see how her children were leaving one by one. It seemed that they'd forgotten about her. She had had 3 children, and after 2 years since they left, not once did they visit her. She had to go to an asylum to spend her last years of life. Among her 3 children, they had agreed to pay their support there. Still, soon they got tired of their contribution for their mother, and after 5 years of living in the home, they threw her out without clemency, because no one was answering for the money it cost to keep her there. During her last day of stay, Rosaura, who still didn't know what she would do the next day or had any place to go, dedicated herself to remembering her life and trying to understand the reasons why she had ended up like this, without anyone caring about her and probably living out her old age on the streets, despite having 3 children who were not poor. Then she went back to her childhood. She remembered herself as a good daughter. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. She'd accompanied her mother after she was widowed and had been aware of her until the last of her days. After her death, she never had any remorse because she knew that she hadn't poorly behaved and trusted that she would have the same fate with her children. At that time, she was beginning to meet Miguel, who had become the father of her children. She'd never been really much in love and neither was he, but both of them were looking for someone to fill their loneliness and insecurities. And at the moment when they'd finally decided to leave things as they were and continue each on their way was when Rosaura became pregnant. Neither of them was prepared to be a parent, but they did their best to face their destiny together. Both of them got jobs that demanded more strength than they had, and that occupied all their time. That's why their first child spent a lot of time home alone. That's why when their second daughter was born, they both decided to find a way to be more present in the growth of their children. But in the end, they didn't have to do much. Rosaura had been fired from her job after having taken her baby one day while she was still recovering from childbirth. So Miguel had to redouble his efforts so Rosaura could be at home with her children and take care of household chores. She did what she could for a while, but when she received the news that Rosaura was pregnant for the 3rd time, she couldn't stand it. The blurred idea they always had of leaving completely disappeared forever from the life of Rosaura and her 3 children without any remorse. For a long time, she had to fight against the feeling of abandonment and against her impulses to leave everything too. But the love for her children could more than any other idea crossed her mind. And now she thought that she did not know where she got the strength to make her 3 children grow up healthy and without anything lacking. But she had somehow made it possible. She'd always been proud of it, until she realized that not even all the sacrifices she'd been capable of for them had been enough to have their gratitude, the gratitude of her children in her old age. They had moved away from her little by little, forming their lives and completely forgetting about that older woman who had healed them and hugged them whenever they were afraid, and who'd given them their best years for seeing them grow up healthy and robust. Now Rosaura was sitting there with 87 years on her shoulders and with all the pains of a life given to ungrateful children, sitting as she ran out of relative comfort and had to figure out how to continue living now that she didn't even have a roof over her head. Then she walked out of her home aimlessly and begged God to find an answer to her needs. The best idea she had at the time was to go to the forest. She didn't want to stay in the city under a bridge or on the street having to endure the looks of pity and disgust of people. If her time to die had arrived, she would prefer to die in the countryside in the middle of nature and hidden from the curious. When she was there, she was surprised at how soon she felt at home. There was no roof, but she found a cave and decided that this would be her home from now on. But the surprise that she would find a few meters further inside was unexpected, because there at the bottom of the cave she found a huge box apparently full of books. Rosaura, who had nothing to do, felt grateful to find those books, because now she would have something to distract herself, and that's why she felt almost as if she'd found a treasure. But it was when she opened the book that she realized that what she found was much more than an abandoned library. Page by page, the old woman was finding money, and when checking each of the books, she found much more money. Someone had left their fortune there. No one entered that cave, but if they did, they surely wouldn't be interested in a pile of books. However, Rosaura had found that treasure in the midst of her misfortune and could well have taken all the money, returned to the home, and ensured her stay until she died. But no, instead she decided to go out again to the city and look for the owner. Some books were marked and she decided to find the person, but her search ended soon. His tombstone rested in the cemetery. The owner of that fortune died several years ago, and then Rosaura knew in her heart the money was there for her, that life was finally rewarding her. But to her own surprise, Rosaura didn't return to the home. She didn't want to leave her cave. She still wanted to die in that field and use that money to make that place comfortable, and so that she won't lack anything there. The old woman spent 6 years of her life until death reached her. 6 years in which she was happier than she'd been in her whole life, in which she needed no company because she finally knew what it felt like to have fulfillment. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.